We are Group 1, and we are doing a country analysis of Estonia. Group 1 uh, consists of Mario Perkovic, Dejan Rasic, Dragan Rasic, Rochelle Surratt, and Ivory Carey. Estonia first gained independence in 1918. It was forcibly made part of the USSR during the 1940s, and it regained its independence on August 20th, 1991, with Soviet troops leaving the country in 1994. Estonia's current president is Kersti Kaljulaid. She is the first female president of the country and is also the youngest president in its history. The head of government is Jüri Ratas. Both Kaljulaid and Ratas were elected to their positions in 2016. Estonia runs on a parliamentary republic, which is where the executive branch derives its legitimacy from and is accountable to the legislature or parliament. In such a government, the cabinet is appointed by the prime minister and is approved by the parliament or Riigikogu. Estonia is situated in northeastern Europe and borders the Baltic Sea. The capital of Tallinn sits on a northern coast on the Gulf of Finland. Estonia has a maritime climate with cool summers and moderate winters. The terrain is flatlands in the north and hills in the south. Estonia has a population of roughly 1.2 million citizens, making it one of the smaller countries in the EU and in Europe in general. The majority of the population is ethnically Estonian, with about a quarter of the population being Russian, and the rest being a mix of the multiple smaller ethnic groups. Population density is about 30 citizens per square kilometer. The median age is just under 44 years, and the life expectancy is 77.4.
The business practices in Estonia. The working days in a typical Estonian business environment are Monday through Friday. There is work on Saturdays and Sundays, but it's really uncommon in professional occupations. There are 12 holidays per year that employees get off, and the average employee gets 28 days of annual vacation along with 140 days of maternity leave. But that maternity leave maxes out at 250 days for the year. The typical hours a week are 40, with a max of 48 hours in 1 week. The typical working day is 8 hours with a mandatory 30-minute to 1 hour lunch break. Overtime must be mutually agreed upon between employee and employer, and the most that you could work in one day is 12 hours or 48 hours every 7 days. That averages out over a 4-month span. The business culture in Estonia can be described as an old school or traditional environment with very traditional business interactions where eye contact and facial cues are very important, and person to person communication is favored over email and phone communication. Estonian is the official language in Estonia, and it is spoken by about 69% of the population. Russian and Ukrainian are the other two major languages that are spoken widely throughout the country, with Russian taking up 29.6% of the population, while Ukrainian only 0.6%. The remaining percentage is left over by unspecified languages. In the business environment, Estonian is the language of choice, unless we're dealing with international business, then it's English, and it is also the most popular foreign language behind Russian. And then most individuals in Estonia are multilingual individuals, and this is due to the high literacy rate as well as English being taught in primary schools at a young age. The literacy rate in Estonia is 99.8% among males and females, and this is attributed to the large emphasis on education. There are two time zones in Estonia, UTC plus 2 and UTC plus 3. UTC plus 2 is Eastern European time, and UTC plus 3 is Eastern European summer time, which is only in effect during daylight savings time, and that commences on 29 March 2020 this year. And Estonia is about 7 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. The currency in Estonia is the euro, and the exchange rate is 1.1 euros to $1.
Economically, Estonia is ranked 116th in the world, which puts it roughly in the middle of strength of country. That puts it in league with Mali, North Korea, Georgia, and Madagascar in terms of economic strength. Looking at the chart, we see Estonia right there in the middle, highlighted in blue, with an economic strength. But you see countries both to its stronger than it and weaker than it economically are very similar in terms of economic strength, with Estonia being at 41.65 and the country ahead of it, which is Trinidad and Tobago, being 42, and the country behind it only being slightly weaker at $41.22 billion annually. Currently, Estonia has a GDP growth rate at 4.9%, which is really good compared to other countries in the world. This is mainly due to their economic strength in trade, which also makes it pretty volatile. Their GDP per capita is 31,700, which is a 7.1% increase from 2015 to 2017. GDP goes into many areas. This is where the composition of by end user comes into play. If you look at household composition, you're looking at 50.3% of the GDP goes to the households consumption. Government consumption is 20.4%. Fixed capital investment is 24%. Inventory investment is 2.2%. Comparatively, the fifth strongest economy in the world and the strongest in Europe, Germany, actually has a negative percentage in that section of a negative 0.2%. Exports of goods and services is at 77.2%, and imports of goods and services is negative 74%, which means that this Estonia relies heavily on trade, which makes their economy a little bit more volatile and dependent on external factors. Here we see a good illustration of that end user composition, with the household income being over on the far left and the imports being on the far right. You see that with imports it's a negative number, so you see it going down, downward trajectory from the center of the graph, whereas everything else in the chart is showing an upward trajectory. When we look at GDP, we have to look at what areas of the economy created the GDP, so what sectors of origin they would be. According to the CIA World Factbook, those are three major sectors, which are agriculture, industry, and services. Each country builds into these to come up with their major GDP numbers. In terms of Estonia, that makes their agriculture is 2.8%, their industry is 29.2%, and their services is 68.1%, which means that their transportation and other non-manufacturing industries, such as like accounting and those kind of things, make up the vast majority of their GDP composition. This chart here is an excellent illustration of that sector of origin for their GDP in terms of where that money is coming from. If you look at the blue part of this graph, that is the services sector of origin, which shows it's by far the most out of all three of these sectors. Industry is highlighted in black, which shows that it's the second strongest, and agriculture is in white, showing the smallest area of the GDP by sector of origin. Estonia has two major areas of production, agricultural and industrial. In the agricultural sector, we have major production as potatoes, vegetables, grains, fish, dairy products, and livestock. In terms of industrial, we have engineering, food, forestry, and carpentry, electronics, information technology, textiles, and telecommunications. Estonia does business with multiple major partners on the world stage, both in import and export. In terms of export partners, Finland takes the top spot at 12%. followed by Sweden, Russia, Latvia, Lithuania, Germany, Norway, United States, Netherlands, and France. These make up the top 10 nations uh, by export partner, uh, with 11% in Sweden, Russia having 10%, Latvia having 7.3%, uh, Lithuania having 6.6%, Germany having 6%. So they're very similar in terms of numbers. Norway 4.6%, United States 4%, and Netherlands 2.8%. France being the final top 10 spot being 2.8%. This chart puts it into perspective the importance of those 10 export partners, as they make up a vast majority of total exports for the country of Estonia, with 66% roughly of the total exports being those top 10 countries, with 33% being the remaining portion of all other partners combined. So what do these countries import from Estonia? Uh, while Estonia imports and exports multiple things of similar production and industries, Estonia's major exports include vehicles and parts for those vehicles, chemicals, metals, and wood. Because their forest industry is very strong, furniture and bedding, with their wood production being so great, they also have really large carpentry and furniture industries, machinery and electrical equipment, food and beverages, and mineral fuels. That basically falls into like shale oil and things like that. Many of Estonia's export partners are also their import partners, with some notable changes. You see Germany, which is the fifth strongest power in Europe or in the world, and the strongest power in Europe, is the biggest exporter to Estonia. Estonia is bringing in more product from Germany and Finland than any other country in the world, with 10% each. They're tied there. Both of those countries also happen to be EU countries. You have Russia at 9.7%. This is also a big partner because they were a Soviet Union member up until 1991, as Mario pointed out earlier in this presentation. That brings China at 8.5%, Lithuania at 5.9%, Poland at 5.6%, Sweden at 5.5%, Latvia at 5%, the Netherlands at 4.4%, and Italy at 2.7%. These countries make up the vast majority of imports to Estonia, as well as they made up much of the exports to Estonia. We just discussed, these countries, the top 10 countries that import or that export products to Estonia, make up the vast majority of that, and this graph illustrates that perfectly, with Italy being that light green sliver right there next to the black, being 2.7%. So it's the tiniest portion, but that makes up almost 2/3 total imports from those 10 countries alone, the rest being in that dark gray area. As we discussed, Estonia brings in much of the same area of industry as they export, with vehicles being one of the items that they both import and export, as well as chemicals and metals, machinery and electrical equipment, foodstuffs, and mineral fuels. They're a big importer of Russian oil and natural gas.
The Estonian school system consists of K through 12. Primary education contains grade 1 through grade 6, with kindergarten being part of preschool. Grades 7 through 9 make up basic education. Secondary education are grades 10 through 12, where students have a choice between gymnasium and general secondary education and secondary vocational school. Higher education, the equivalent of college, gives students three choices: vocational higher education, diploma level higher education, and academic higher education. Property rights in Estonia are enforced at a federal level. This includes intellectual property rights. There are detailed laws that cover all aspects of ownership, to include transfer of ownership. The legal system of Estonia is part of the continental European legal tradition. The system is heavily influenced by other developed countries. The legal system is based on norms rather than statutory regulations. The Estonian innovation has earned it the title of the world's most digitally enabled nation. A combination of talent, environment, and innovation equates to a limitless success potential. The transportation system in Estonia consists of roads, trains, waterways, and airports. They employ an intelligent transportation system, ITS, that is designed to make travel safer and logistics more convenient. ITS also promotes self-driving vehicle technology. With roughly 726,000 vehicles on only 16,608 kilometers of roads, the Estonian transportation offers free public transportation to reduce congestion.
Healthcare. Estonia's healthcare system provides state-of-the-art care and advanced technology for patients and doctors as well. It utilizes electronic health portals. Has two levels of healthcare services, which are primary care and secondary care. Primary care includes patients' initial visit to the doctor, where they are seen by a contracted physician. Secondary care consists of patients needing specialized care, where they are seen by hospital doctors. There are two types of healthcare systems, private and public. Public is covered and provided by the employer. Private is covered by the insurance companies but paid for by the individual, and is extremely affordable. There are 19 main hospitals funded by the EHIS Health Insurance Fund, 20 private hospitals, and 4 central hospitals. 2017 statistics show that there were 6,185 hospital beds and 346.82 practicing doctors per 100,000 inhabitants.